Alrighty. So we left off when Mom came home and she asked how Truman was doing. Take a look at that picture. Great, I said. He and Ollie played tag all morning. Truman took a nap. He's in my room. Perfect. Let's take them for a good long walk, Mom said. I ran to get Truman, but when I opened my bedroom door, oh no. It looked like a blizzard had blown through my room. Ripped paper covered everything like snowflakes. My trash can was tipped over. My desk chair was too. Truman was sitting in the middle of it all, his dog bed shredded to bits. Truman! I shouted. Ollie came running and stopped in the doorway. Yip, 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 yip. I don't always have the neatest room. Mom usually has to tell me to clean up, but this was a disaster. Ollie looked at the mess Truman had made. Then he sneezed. Truman dipped his head. He tucked back his ears. He looked very sorry. Oh dear, Mom said when she saw my room. Truman found trouble, didn't he? Yes, he did, I said. Ollie sneezed again and backed up into the hallway. I went over to Truman. I held his head in my hand. Did you think we forgot about you in here, huh? I asked. I'm so sorry. Okay, Truman, don't worry. Kata, I'll take the dogs for a walk, Mom said. You start cleaning your room. If you're still working on it when we get back, I'll help you finish. I nodded. Thanks, Mom. Ollie, time for a walk. You too, Truman, Mom called, heading back to the kitchen. Ollie followed Mom, and Truman followed Ollie. Mom and Dad had said that it would take time to learn how to foster pets. I sure learned a good lesson that day. Never leave a foster dog alone in your room. All right, that's the end of chapter 2. We're going to start chapter 3. So take a break if you need to, and I'll start reading chapter 3 in a moment. Chester and Tommy, go inside. Come on. Chester, go inside. Go inside. All right. Chapter 3 is called Truman Finds Trouble. I wasn't the only one learning how to foster a pet. Mom and Dad were learning too. Every day brought new lessons. Oh, Truman, Mom said, looking sadly at her ripped book bag. You found trouble. Oh, Truman, Dad said, looking at a chewed shoe. You found trouble. Oh, Truman and Ollie, I said, looking at a torn, empty box of dog treats. You found trouble. I gave both dogs bellies a quick rub. Well, at least you two are happy. Dad, Mom, and I quickly learned our lessons. We couldn't watch Truman. When we couldn't watch Truman, we had to put him in his crate. We made sure there was nothing he could rip or chew on the floor. Unlike short Ollie, Truman could reach the countertop when he stood on his hind legs, so we cleared everything. Our daily routine went like this. In the morning, before Dad took me to school, I fed Ollie and Truman. After school, Mom and I took the dogs for a walk. During homework time, Ollie slept on one side of me. Truman slept on the other. After dinner, we played. At bedtime, when Dad read a story to me, Ollie and Truman listened too. The 5 of us were a happy, furry foster family. A couple weeks later, Mom and I came home to a big surprise. Yip, yip, yip. Ollie greeted us at the door like he always did. But then, woof, woof. Truman, how did you get out of your crate? I asked. Maybe I forgot to close the crate, Mom said. Woof, woof. Truman rose on his hind legs and licked my face. I laughed and gently pushed him away. After I did that, my hand felt sticky. Why? Before I could figure that out, Ollie ran into the other room. He usually followed me when I got home. Something wasn't right. Truman wagged his tail. I saw a yogurt lid stuck to his back. The fur on his head looked matted and oily. Someone had found trouble. Mom, I said, looking around, my eyes wide. Oh my goodness, Mom cried. What is all of this? The trash was tipped over. Dirty wrappers, broken eggshells, banana peels, and other trash covered the kitchen floor. Truman nudged my legs. Potato chip crumbs dusted his nose. Ew, you stink, I cried. Truman's tongue hung out like he was smiling and pleased with himself. He ran to the middle of the floor and rolled around in the trash back and forth. The eggshells crunched. He slid on the banana peels. He waved all four paws in the air. He sure was a happy dog. Oh, Truman, Mom said, you found trouble. You need a bath. I hurried to the bathroom and filled the tub with warm water. When Truman heard the water running, he ran into my room. He tried to hide under my bed. He did not want a bath. Ollie poked his nose into my room. He smelled Truman, backed up, and ran down the hall. I didn't blame him. Truman was stinking up my room fast. Truman, it's okay. We just want to get you cleaned up, I said. Baths are fun. I talked to him in a calm voice while Mom hooked his leash to his collar. Oh boy, what a mess this is. We walked Truman to the bathroom and he sat down in the doorway. That was it. He wouldn't go any further. Mom pulled, I pushed. The dog would not move. Oh boy, I wonder how they're going to get this dog in the bath. Every dog is different, I said, and Mom agreed. That's when I got an idea. I ran to Truman's crate and got his rubber ducky. Holding the toy above the water, I said, Truman, get your ducky. I tossed the toy into the tub. Splash. What do you think is going to happen? Truman's ears perked up. He leaped. Splash! Truman was in the tub. Mom and I quickly soaped him up, and he sat still with his toy in his mouth. We scrubbed, we rubbed, we rinsed. Soon, Truman was clean again. He jumped out of the tub. Shake, shake, shake. He shook the water from his fur. Now Mom and I were all wet. We started laughing. You are a good dog, Truman, I said, hugging him. All right, so that's the end of chapter 3. This is the beginning of chapter 4. Go ahead and take a break and then come back to listen to chapter 4. All right, if you're still here, we have chapter 4. Chapter 4 is called Old Friends, New Friends. Ollie, Truman, and I had great fun together. We loved to go on walks and play fetch. The three of us made a good team. I started to wonder if my family could be Truman's forever home. One day, my best friend Hannah came over. She liked Ollie a lot, but she was nervous to meet Truman. Don't worry, he is one terrific dog. He is one terrific dog, I said to her. Hannah and I went to my room. Yep, yep, yep. Ollie loved Hannah. He wiggled and squirmed like a puppy in her lap. I ran to my parents' room and got Truman from his crate. He barked and licked my face. Woof, woof. Before I could stop him, he ran down the hall towards my room. Truman, wait for me, I laughed. When Truman got to my room, he stopped in the doorway. He saw Hannah sitting on my bed. He did not go in. I walked past him and sat next to Hannah and Ollie. Truman stood and looked at us for a long time. He wagged his tail, but he stayed in the hall. It's okay, Truman, I said. This is Hannah. She's my best friend. Truman sat down. Look, Ollie loves Hannah, I said. Ollie wagged his tail and licked Hannah's face. Truman slowly stepped into my room. He crept to my side and stuck close to my leg, away from Hannah. He kept watching her. He can be shy with new people, I said. It takes a little time for him to feel safe. I remembered when Truman first met my family. Truman, I want to be your friend, Hannah said. Do you want to be mine? She held out her hand, palm up. She stayed very still. Truman carefully leaned across me, sniffed her hand. Hannah smiled. Truman thumped his tail. Good boy, she said. Woof, woof. Truman licked Hannah's hand. She giggled. Truman, you are a terrific dog, she said. I told you, I said. I was so glad all four of us were friends now. We grabbed some toys and went to the backyard to play. Kata, you really like Truman, don't you? Hannah asked. I do, I said. He's the perfect fit for my family. Hannah smiled, but she looked a little sad too. Too bad he can't stay here forever. It's going to be hard to say goodbye. I didn't want to think about that. Dad made my favorite dinner that night, hamburgers with fried eggs. Right after we sat down at the table, Mom said, Guess what? What? I asked. Joss called me today. She might have a family for Truman, she said with a smile. That's great, Dad said. I looked down at the floor. On one side of my chair was Ollie. On the other side was Truman. What would it be like when Truman wasn't there anymore? I felt a tug in my heart and a lump in my throat. So, what happens next? I asked. I leaned down and patted Truman's head. I rubbed his ears. Joss will make sure the family is good for Truman, Mom said. After that, the family will call me or your dad. They'll ask us questions about Truman, and we'll tell them everything about him. If they think he sounds like the right dog for them, they will come to our house to meet him. Be sure to tell them he needs to be crated, I said. Tell them he eats things that are not food, like trash and blankets. Remember what he did to your book bag and Dad's shoe? Remember the mess in my room? Yes, we will tell them the truth about Truman, Dad said. We want Truman to find his forever home. Be sure to tell them he doesn't like baths. Tell them he is shy with new people, I said. Mom put down her hamburger and looked at me. We will also be sure to tell them all the terrific things about him, too. He loves other dogs. He knows how to sit, come, stay, and lie down. He plays fetch, and he is very loving. Are you sad about Truman leaving, Kata? Dad asked. I didn't feel like eating anymore, even if it was my favorite dinner. I looked down at my plate and nodded. Honey, we talked about this, remember? Mom said. I know, I said. Truman's just so... By fostering, we are helping a lot of animals instead of just one or two that we would be able to adopt, Mom continued. Dad reached over and rubbed my shoulder. I know it's tough, Kata, he said. You've done a great job with Truman. He's had a safe, loving home away from he's had a safe, loving home away from home with us. We taught him good manners. We also learned what makes him special so we can help him find a good match with a family. Mom's eyes got a little wet. She smiled and said, No matter what happens, Truman will always have a special place in your heart. He'll have one in your dad's heart and in my heart too. I knew all of this, of course I wanted to help animals, but I had fallen in love with Truman. How could I say goodbye? All right, chapter 5. A terrific dog. The family that Josh told us about was not the right fit for Truman. They called and talked to Dad. The family loved to go fishing and they wanted a dog to take to the lake. Dad told them he wasn't sure Truman would like the lake. Truman hated baths. To Truman, a lake would seem like one big bathtub. A day later, a man called and talked to Mom. He wanted a quiet house dog, one he could leave in the house while he went to work. Mom told him that Truman sometimes chewed things like blankets or rugs when he was alone. He wouldn't be a good fit for the man. Another week went by. Josh says the older dogs are harder to find homes for. Many people want puppies, Mom said. Truman is housebroken. He's already trained. That makes things easier for our family, I said. Dad nodded. True, he said. Does this mean you aren't sad anymore about finding a home for Truman? I was still a little sad about Truman leaving, but I was sadder that nobody wanted to adopt him. He was a good dog. He deserved a forever home. Finally, 4 days later, Mom had good news. Mr. and Mrs. Garcia and their son Ben are coming to the house on Saturday to meet Truman, she said. Did you tell them everything? I asked. Did you tell them that Truman is terrific, but he sometimes finds trouble too? I did. They thought his antics were cute, Mom said. I crossed my fingers. I loved having Truman here with us, but I wanted him to find his own home. On Saturday morning, I cleaned my room, gathered all of Truman's toys, and put them in his toy bag. Dad put Truman's bed next to the bag by the front door. We didn't know if this family would be a good fit. We hoped they would be. The doorbell rang. Yip, 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 woof, woof. I put Ollie in my room. I didn't want him to distract the Garcia family from Truman. Mr. Garcia was tall. He smiled a lot. Mrs. Garcia wore jeans and a t-shirt with a picture of a dog on it. Ben was older than me, almost a teenager. The minute he saw Truman, he kneeled down. Truman hid behind my mom. I looked at Ben. I was worried that he would be upset, but he just smiled. I kneeled down too. It's okay, Truman. These people want to meet you, I said. Truman peeked around my mom's legs and looked at me. Then, wagging his tail, he walked right over to Ben and licked his cheek. Ben laughed. He is beautiful, Mr. Garcia said. Truman went to Mrs. Garcia and sat down in front of her. What a good boy, she said, patting his head. He is terrific, Ben said, turning to me. Your dad said sometimes he gets into trouble. I do too. Looks like you and Truman will become best friends, I said. I hope so, Ben said. I think Truman will be perfect for our family, Mrs. Garcia said. Can we take him home? I handed Truman's leash to Ben. Mr. and Mrs. Garcia gathered Truman's things. I let Ollie out of my room so he could say goodbye. Right before it was time for him to leave, I hugged Truman tight. Have a wonderful life with your new family, I whispered in his ears. He licked me one last time. Mom, Dad, Ollie, and I watched the Garcia family and Truman drive away. Truman looked very happy. How are you doing, Kata? Okay? Mom asked. I think so, I said. I'm a little sad, but mostly happy. Yip, yip, yip. Ollie crawled onto my lap and nuzzled my ear. I was happy he had found his forever home with us. I was happy Truman had found his forever home with Ben, too. Life at my house went back to its normal routine. Every morning I fed Ollie breakfast. Every afternoon after school, Mom and I took him for a walk. Every evening he sat next to my chair as I did my homework. Every night he curled up on my bed to sleep. 2 weeks later, Dad showed me an email from Mrs. Garcia. She said that they all loved Truman. Ben and Truman went to the park every day. Attached to the email was a picture of Truman with his rubber ducky in his mouth. He was sitting on Ben's bed. I guess they didn't have a rule about no dogs on the furniture. Later that night, while I was doing a puzzle, Ollie ran to the back door. Yip, yip, yip. Mom was home for the bookstore. Okay, then guess what? Mom said excitedly. What? I asked. We have another foster pet coming, she said. Really? Hooray! I cried. I jumped, then started dancing with Ollie. All kinds of thoughts spun in my head. What kind of animal would we get? Another dog? A cat? Something more unusual like a snake or a rabbit? I couldn't wait to find out. I was ready to help another animal find its forever home. All right. So the cool thing about this story is it has a glossary in the back. So a glossary puts all of the words that maybe you didn't understand in the book and tells you what those words mean. So if you ever are reading a story, always check in the back to see if it has a glossary to help you understand words that might be new to you. All right. So the other cool thing is that this story is based on a real family. So Kada is actually a real life person, and she really does have a dog named Ollie. And that means that this story is based on a real life person. So here's a picture of Ollie in real life. This is Kada in real life. So Kada and Ollie. And Kada and Ollie are best friends, just like in the story. And Kada likes to help animals. So there she is with the kitty. Here's the author, and here's the illustrator. The end. Now, the cool thing about this story is there's more stories just like it. So you can read My Furry Foster Family, Apple and Annie, the hamster duo, Betty, the bearded dragon, Buttons, the kitten, and then we already read Truman the dog. So if you really liked this story, there are more stories just like it with different foster animals. So this one was about Truman the dog, but they have other stories about other foster animals.